I.S.U.P.K.
Shalom, Israel. We the Israelite School, Universal Practical Knowledge. Started at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding GEN.YAHANNA. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group. So today's topic, we're going to talk about Christmas. All right, the real customs of Christmas. All right, so we're going to talk about the real Christmas tree. Specifically, the Christmas tree, the birth of Nimrod. All right, as a holiday of Christmas, Christmas is combined of different practices and beliefs into one. One of the beliefs that are at some of the traditions that people follow within Christmas was the Feast of Saturnalia. The Feast of Saturnalia is part of a Christmas tradition. Another practice is the mistletoe, which was also part of the Feast of Saturnalia, which is another part of the Christmas tradition. Another one is the celebration and the worship of setting up the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree, the evergreen tree within the house, and presents being under it, and the balls and wrapped up with lights is another tradition within Christmas. And that tradition is directly correlated with the birth of Nimrod and the worship of the god of Nimrod. And we're going to get the history of Nimrod. And we're also going to go into the Bible to explain that Christmas is in the Bible. Setting up the Christmas tree is in the Bible. And God is completely against it. Like celebrating the day of celebrating Christmas, celebrating birthdays is completely against God. Worshiping another God is against God. That's what we have to understand. And it's against God. And God told us to follow his laws, statutes, and commandments. If you are black, Hispanic, and Native American, God forbids you to set a Christmas tree within your house. If you are black, Hispanic, Native American, God forbids you to buy presents and put under a Christmas tree within your house. If you are black, Hispanic, and Native American, God forbids you to worship and celebrate the birthday of Nimrod. God forbids it. And it's in the Bible. So we're going to get Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1. So Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you. So the Bible is saying, hear the word that the Lord is speaking unto you. Who is the you? The you is talking about the children of Israel. The you is the so-called the blacks, the Hispanics, and Native Americans. Like, who are the children of Israel? You have the Puerto Ricans, the Cubans, the Colombians, the Guatemalans, the El Salvadorians, the Creek, the Navajo, the Lakota, the Blackfoot, the Cherokee, the Mohegans. Like, these are the so-called Negroes, the Haitians, the people from the DR, the Dominicans. Like, these are the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Like, these are the children of Israel according to the Bible. So when the Bible says, hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, the you is talking about blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, which are the children of Israel. And the Lord saying, hear this word. Like, hear the word that's in the Bible. Like, don't hear the words and the customs and the beliefs of these other nations. Like, don't hear the customs and the different beliefs of another man's heritage and another man's culture that's outside of the customs and the heritage that God gave you, the God of this Bible. O house of Israel, O house of Israel, So you is talking about, O house of Israel. Verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. So the Lord said, learn not the way of the heathen. What is learning the way of the heathen? It's practicing the cultures and the philosophies of another nation. Christmas is the way of the heathen. Taking a Christmas tree is the way of the heathen. Buying Christmas gifts is the way of the heathen. Alright? So the Bible says, thus saith the Lord, Salakia, thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. Alright? So now, before we go any further, I'm going to give a brief history. There's an article I'm going to read. I'm going to give a brief history of the king of King Nimrod, the so-called God of Nimrod. Okay? Because this very Babylonian practice is in the Bible. Like, this is the truth in the Bible. Setting up a Christmas tree in your house, setting up a Christmas tree in your house actually derives from the Babylonian Empire and is spoken about in the Bible. It's spoken about it. And God also just said, learn not the way of the heathen. Practicing the customs of the Babylonians is learning the way of the heathen. What blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans do not know is that we are practicing something God told us not to practice. Christmas, we are not supposed to practice it. And let's get the history of Christmas. Let's get the history of Nimrod. So, the history of Nimrod. So, Nimrod married. So, this is on World Press. You can Google this, whatever. It's all over the internet. This is nothing new. At one point in time, before the internet, these were in actual books. You had to go into libraries and actually read a book about this. You can find this in any book. You can find this in any library. And if you just go on Google, it'll tell you all about Nimrod and the Christmas tree. Now, Nimrod married his mother, whose name was Semiramis. So Semiramis was King Nimrod's mother, okay? After Nimrod's death, his so-called mother/wife. So, the history of Nimrod is Nimrod actually married his mother and had sex with his mother and made his mother his wife. Like, this is why God told us not to follow the customs and the belief of another nation. It is disgusting to have sex with your mother. That is completely disgusting and is an abomination. But celebrating Christmas is saying that you are okay with yourself sleeping with your mother, your son or your father, whatever, sleeping with their mother. Celebrating Christmas is you being okay with sleeping with your mother. That is disgusting. It is an abomination. It is abominable and is an abomination unto the Lord. And the Lord said, learn not in the way of the heathen. Like, there's a reason why God told us not to celebrate Christmas. There's a reason why God told us not to worship another God outside of the God of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There's reasons why. And this is the reason why. Because we're worshiping a God, a so-called man, that had sex with his mother. So after Nimrod's death, his so-called mother-wife, Semiramis, propagated the evil doctrine of the survival of Nimrod as a spirit being. She claimed a full-grown evergreen tree sprang overnight from a dead tree stump, which symbolized the springing forth unto new life of the dead Nimrod. So that evergreen tree, once Nimrod died, his so-called wife/mother, Semiramis, pushed a doctrine of belief that his spirit was in a evergreen tree. Now, how ironic, it is not a coincidence that on December 25th, the day around the winter solstice, that King Nimrod was born, right? There's a evergreen tree in everybody's house during this time of year, during this season. During the Christmas season, during the month of December, during the holiday season, you will find a tree in everyone's house. And not any type of tree. you would find a Christmas tree, a evergreen tree. This is not a coincidence. This is a Babylonian practice. This was a Babylonian belief that when King Nimrod died, he became a god and his spirit was put into an evergreen tree. I'm not making this up. You can go on the internet, you can go into any library, and this is the information that you're going to find. This is nothing new. This is nothing new. It's been out here. This is another tradition that we follow in Christmas during the holiday spirit. Like, this is the worship of another god. We believe, who would have known that every December 25th of December, we bring a god into our houses. Another god that's outside of the God of the Bible. Who would have known that unless you were listening to the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge under Command of Gen.YAHANNA. So, on each anniversary of his birth, so on every anniversary of his birth, right, on Nimrod's birth, Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree. She claimed Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts upon it. December 25th was the birthday of Nimrod. This is the real origin of the Christmas tree. So, on every anniversary of the birth of Nimrod, which was December 25th, that evergreen tree, which was the so-called spirit of Nimrod, you were forced to put gifts under that tree. Like, you were forced to do it. Like, that was the practice of the Babylonians. That is one of the traditions within Christmas. That is the tradition that every so-called American does in America. They put an evergreen tree within their house and they put gifts underneath it. It has nothing, listen, December 25th has nothing to do with Christ. December 25th is not the birthday of Christ. December 25th is the birthday of a god called Nimrod that had sex with his mother. Now, we're going to go back to the Bible, Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. Like, this is why we are not supposed to learn not the way of the heathen. Is not to worship a God that had sex with his mother and then came as an evergreen tree and then said you had to put gifts every December 25th. God said, learn not the way of the heathen. And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. Like, don't be dismayed. Like, what does it mean to be dismayed at the signs of heaven? Like, heaven is talking about the sky. Like, don't be dismayed at the stars. It is a practice in many other cultures to worship the moon, the sun, and the stars. In the Bible, God just said, do not be dismayed at it. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are not supposed to worship the moon, the sun, the stars, and not some tree. For the heathen are dismayed at them. For the Babylonians are dismayed at the sun, the moon, and the stars. The Arabians and the Muslims in the Middle East are dismayed at the so-called the moon, the sun, and the stars. Why in the Nation of Islam there's a moon and a star for their national flag? Because other nations worship the moon, the sun, and the stars. Why is it that on the American flag in America they use stars to represent all 50 states? It's because the heathen are dismayed at the sun, the moon, and the stars. Like, that was the custom and the practice of the heathen. And God said for us not to do it. For the custom, verse 3, for the customs of the people are vain. Like, the customs of the people are vain. What does it mean to be vain? It means nothing. Vanity is nothing. It's worthless. It's useless. Like, the customs of worshiping the star, there's no benefit in worshiping stars. There is no benefit in worshiping the moon. There's no benefit in worshiping the sun. But there are benefits worshiping the God of the Bible. Like, there's no benefit in putting a Christmas tree within your house and putting gifts under it. There is no benefit. It's vain. It's worthless. Now here we go. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest. It says, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest. Like this is real specific. Like the Bible, God is trying to, just as the prophet of Jeremiah, speaking the words of God. And God is telling Jeremiah to talk about a specific culture that says to go out in the forest and cut down a tree. Like, keep this in mind. This whole topic in today's topic is about the Christmas tree and the worship of Nimrod, the god of Nimrod. Jeremiah was during the time of the Babylonian captivity. Like, this is Jeremiah. Jeremiah is talking about the Babylonians and their practices and their customs. And their customs is going into a forest and cutting down a tree. So for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen. So there's a man, a workman, like a lumberjack with an axe, like a man that's a worker. He's going to go out into the forest and cut down a tree. And what's going to happen with this tree? And it says, of the workman with the axe. With the axe, he's going to go down into the forest and cut down a tree. You know how you take an axe and you go 1, 2, and 3. And how many times it takes to cut down that tree with an axe? So these people of the people of Babylon, the Babylonians, their customs was to go to a forest with an axe and cut down a tree. Verse 4, they deck it with silver and with gold. Now, what does that sound like to you? The Babylonians, this is Jeremiah telling you the customs of Babylon, that they go out in the forest. A workman goes out into the forest with an axe and cuts down a tree, and then decks the tree with silver and gold. That does sound like Christmas, right? That does sound like deck the halls with bows of jolly, right? That does sound like joy to the world, does it not? That does sound like jingle bells, jingle all the way. It does sound like that, right? Because it's in the Bible. And God told us not to be dismayed at it. God says, do not listen and follow learn not the ways of the heathen. Like, that's what God said in the Bible. Like, this is in Jeremiah. You're not going to find this in the Christian church. You're not going to learn about this from your Christian pastor, that God told us not to celebrate Christmas. But every Christian in America is cutting down a tree and putting a tree in their goddamn house and decking it with silver and gold and with lights. That is what America is telling blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to do. But God said for us not to do it. God forbids us to go out and put a Christmas tree in our goddamn house. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. Like, when you bring that Christmas tree in your house, you fasten it down with nails. You put it into a pot. Some don't even put it into a pot of water. But you put it down and you screw and you put nails into it so the tree doesn't fall down, so the tree can stand right up. So the tree can stand up. Like, this is the culture of the Babylonians. Like, this tree is referring to what we just learned about of Nimrod's mother, Semiramis, Nimrod, that had sex with his mother. That was his so-called wife. That spirit, his spirit went into a tree, a evergreen tree. This is in the Bible. Like, people say the Bible isn't true and the Bible isn't real. This is real history. This is the customs of another people within the Bible. This is a Babylonian custom known by almost everyone. It is in the Bible right here, but the Bible is fake and the Bible isn't real. Listen, let God be true. Everything in this Bible is real. Everything in this Bible is true. Every word in this Bible. And God told so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans not to celebrate Christmas, because it's the worship of the King Nimrod. It's a celebration of King Nimrod's birthday. Some fake God that's worthless and that's vain. It's worthless to worship a God. It's a God that's Salakia. It is worthless and it's vain to worship a God outside of our forefathers, outside of this God of the Bible. It is vain and is worthless. It's completely worthless. Verse 5. They are upright as the palm tree. So if you've ever seen a palm tree, the evergreen tree, its branches are very wide and they're up. And they're very up. Like they're stiff and they're up. They don't slouch. They're up, all right? They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. Like listen, so the Babylonians believed that this tree was King Nimrod. The Babylonians believed that this tree was Nimrod. But it says it speak not. Why does it say it speaks not? Because people were speaking to this tree as if it's going to speak back. Like, how do people speak back to the tree today? Do not people on Christmas Day, they sing around the Christmas tree? Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bells, and they're all circling around the Christmas tree. Deck the halls with bows of jolly, and they're circling around and singing to the Christmas tree. Joy to the world, circling around the Christmas tree and singing to the Christmas tree. But this tree isn't going to speak back to you. Like, it's completely idiotic and stupid. And that's why God said for us to learn not the way of the heathen. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil. Neither also is it in them to do good. This tree that the Bible is talking about, which is Nimrod, so-called reincarnated into the evergreen tree, right? So obviously this tree is an idol and it's supposed to be a god, and the Bible tells us how we're not supposed to follow after other gods. Like, that's in the Bible. Like, thou shalt not serve any other god before me. Like, that's in the Bible. And this right here is telling you right here, be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil. Like, on the Christmas tree, when you would walk around the Christmas tree, back in the Babylonian times, it was such a disgusting sight and a disgusting smell. Like, today, the Christmas tree looks so nice and so beautiful, but it wasn't all that back in the day. Like, you would have the balls on the Christmas tree today. You got the red, the blue, the gold, and the silver, and all that stuff on the Christmas tree today, and those balls, right? Those balls weren't balls in the Babylonian times. Those balls were the decapitation of people's heads that did not want to bow down to Nimrod, to a goddamn tree. If you did not worship this tree on December 25th, if you did not bring a gift to this goddamn tree on December 25th, your head was taken clean off and put on that tree. And you would have to smell the decay of dead heads and dried up blood. It's disgusting. Like, the practice in the heat, like the practices in the traditions of these people's culture is disgusting and vile, and it's worthless, man. And the Bible says we're not supposed to follow it. The Bible says, learn not the way of the heathen. Learn not the way of the heathen. Like, this is the history of the Christmas tree. Like, this is another tradition that is practiced within Christmas. And God is completely against it. If you are so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, if you are so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, you are not supposed to celebrate Christmas. And you are not supposed to cut down some evergreen tree and deck it with silver and gold and put lights all around it and put gifts under the goddamn tree. Because God is against it. You are not supposed to follow it. So if you are Black, Hispanic, and Native American, come into the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge and really learn the customs of your forefathers. Learn the heritage of your own people. Your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our customs, these laws, statutes, and commandments, which is in the Bible, that God gave us, so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And with that, I say Shalom, Israel. We are Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Command General YAHANNA. And with that, I say Shalom.
Nobody tell you cry. You know why? Because I never saw you before. But you a black man like me. And it's worth something.
My whole life was trying to find something to follow. Had loyalty, every man tried to borrow. Felt pain and a lot of sorrow. Got betrayed, so packed, I didn't even have my heart broke. Living confused about to lose hope. Cops got me on the side of the road like a sideshow. Need an antidote before I croak. Now I'm setting fire to rhythm man blues, call this guitar smoke. Rebel with no cause, trying to find direction. The world got me vexed. Picked up a bad liquor habit that's hereditary from oppression. Felt like my life was on fire, trying to find an exit. Now look, 10 G's plus a good record. Sometimes a follower is a soldier, trying to find a good shepherd. Plus when you in hell, how do you excel? Wisdom the breath of life, I don't believe in fairy tale. Listen well to what I tell. No calling can cause pain, something that a rebel knows very well. Can't you tell I was sent from the Lord? Got a tongue like a two-edged sword.